in Boston on the parquet of TD Garden. Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals all of a sudden becomes somewhat of a must-win game for the Boston Celtics because in Game 3, Bam Adebayo put his stamp on the series, had himself a huge game in the absence of Robert Williams.
I need the greatness of Hov to describe what I saw from Bam the other night. It was hunting season. It was hunting season. Bam was an unstoppable rude boy who showed up with the ambition to nice up a whole nation. The fourth center to ever lead a playoff team in points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks in the same basketball game. It was one thing for the Miami Heat to have 19 steals. It was a whole nother thing to Bam to come out with the aggression that he played with. And they fed off of that from the beginning of the game when they were up 26. In the second half, when they maintained that lead to 15, the Celtics did a really good job of fighting themselves to get back in the game. But for Bam, it was cake and dumpling season. Spinners and dumpling season. He was just dominant without Robert Williams, in particular's height and ability to block shots. I think that gave him a level of confidence. Also, slipping and pocket pass in the middle where he could just catch the ball and operate with his mid-range jump shot in the paint. And it was terrific to watch how he basically matched his productivity. He did more in Game 3 than he did in Games 1 and 2 total. And they really needed it. And shout to PJ Tucker, too.
Yep.
Anytime he's going to get you 17 points, and Oladipo came in, locked down deep, snatched Jaylen Brown's jewels, snatched Jayson Tatum jewels, ended up with 4 steals on the game. It was a Heat culture victory on the road.
It really was, and this Miami Heat defense really stepped up in Game 3. Game 1 and Game 2, they didn't get much from Bam, but Game 3, they really did. They got a lot from Tucker. It was a big win for the Heat, and now the Celtics are somewhat on the ropes. One of the stories of this game, Jalen Rose, it seems like everybody got injured at some point, including Jimmy Butler.
Yes, and didn't return for the second half. Luckily for the Heat, they built up a big lead. But you acknowledge, Marcus Smart, when you watch his injury, it looked a lot more serious than it ended up being. But those injuries do have a lingering effect. In particular, he was also dealing with a sore foot. Jayson Tatum looked to be more of a stinger. I knew he was going to return to the game. But the overarching problem for the Celtics, not only was the 23 turnovers, but how they were getting them. The Miami Heat were snatching their jewels. Give it here. Don't say nothing. 19 steals. Jaylen Brown was terrific offensively, scoring around 40. And Al Horford was awesome, giving them 20 plus and 10. And people are going to talk about the Jimmy injury and picture the same with Ja and Jordan Poole. I'm not buying into those theories in any way, shape, or form. The bottom line is Jimmy Butler had a knee injury. He missed another game earlier in the playoffs. I anticipate, since there was no MRI and no X-ray, that he's going to be all right to play tonight.
Here's who's listed as questionable for the Miami Heat. Jimmy Butler, Tyler Hero, Kyle Lowry, Max Strus, PJ Tucker, and Gabe Vincent. That's like their whole rotation right there. I mean, that's 6 rotation players at a team that plays 8 or 9 players. But none of these people are listed as out. They're all listed as questionable. And then the Celtics are listing Marcus Smart, Robert Williams as questionable, and Jayson Tatum as probable. So in this physical series, maybe just being available, having your players is going to be the key to victory in this one.
Absolutely. And Robert Williams III, his presence has to be a factor for the Boston Celtics if they're going to go on and win this series. Obviously, you want to keep the turnovers down if you're Boston. But again, Jayson Tatum has to emerge and have a huge game. He was pedestrian the entire game. He struggled offensively. He complained too much to the officials. His turnovers were high. I think he responds tonight and resembles more like the player that he has the majority of these playoffs than he did by being stymied by the Heat. But I also have to say this. This is a victory for Eric Spoelstra. No Jimmy Butler in the second half. Tyler Hero, the 6th man of the year, struggled. You develop Victor Oladipo to not put him in positions where he could be a performer like this. Matt Strus made a couple of big shots when you needed it the most. And I mentioned PJ Tucker's toughness and offense also. That's literally getting the most out of your roster.
Yep, Strus had a huge three at the end of the game, and Bam Adebayo had himself like a little shot clock, end of the clock, fade away. Like, just got that bucket that they needed that got them the win.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.